Hey guys, meteorologist Chris Tomer here, and this is the On the Snow Before You Go forecast. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you get notified when these latest forecasts come out. All right, let me set the table for you. The next 7, 8, 9 days ahead, the west dominated by an area of high pressure. Eventually, that's going to change around 12/8, 12/9. But let me just let me just highlight this. So on water vapor, the drier air aloft is in the oranges and the reds, and you can see we've got a lot of dry air entrainment across the lower 48, all beneath this ridge of high pressure that is set up, protecting the west, keeping it high and dry through about 12/7, 12/8. Now, behind it, there is a lot of activity. There's a big trough back here with a number of areas of low pressure kind of rotating through this area, but everything's being routed up into Alaska and also up into BC and parts of Canada, especially the northern latitudes of BC. And what's happening is everything's then kind of rotating down into the Great Lakes, the cold air, the moisture, these storm systems, and then up into the northeast. And I do have another storm system on the way for the northeast around 12, 4, 5, and 6. So that's how things are playing out. Let me give you my bullet points here for this snow before you go forecast. So we've still got a continuation of heavy lake effect snow in the northeast into probably 12/2. So those favored areas, Tug Hill Plateau, and then just the south towns of Buffalo. In the northeast, there's a storm system coming 12, 4, 5, and 6 with moderate to heavy snow accumulation for the major ski areas. Out west, it's all about this ridge of high pressure until about 12/8. Then it starts to break down with a storm system 12/8 and 12/9 that will come straight out of Canada and dive south through Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. Here are my key dates. Here's my snow timeline for the Wasatch, Tetons, Colorado, Tahoe, interior BC, and the Northeast. So, for example, the next best chance of snow for the Wasatch, Tetons, Colorado, and Tahoe comes around 12/8 and 12/9. And it doesn't look huge. In fact, light to moderate for most locations. It might be heavier in Colorado and northern Mexico as an area of low pressure spins up in southern Colorado, but that's the next best shot. Until then, it's going to be in the northeast and up into parts of BC. That's where we're going to find the most consistent snowfall. And in fact, that's pretty much plays out with my spider chart. Odds of best snow next 7 days. It's up into BC. It's going to be in the northeast. Those are the two hot spots. Then, as we get to 12/8 and 12/9, 12/10, it rotates back into Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, New Mexico. All those places then become the hot spots for better odds of snow. Let me show you where we stand. So I put the season to date snowfall chart together, and you can see where I wasn't able to put all the resorts on here, but where most of them are. Leading the way is up in the Pacific Northwest, the Timberline area at 133, but Revelstoke doing very good at 131. You've also got Mount Bachelor there, Alyeska, Copper Mountain over 100 inches, doing exceedingly well for Colorado. So what about Alta? So the Alta is dead even with the Aspen Highlands and also Aspen Mountain in the middle 80s. So about 84, 85 inches. Pretty interesting. Vale's right there as well at 84, having a great start to the season. Winter Park at about 76 inches, equal to Snowbird so far. Loveland doing well, nice start to the season in the middle 60s, equal to pretty much Mammoth and Solitude at this point. Jackson Hole's right there, so you get an idea of where everybody stands. Okay, let me talk a bit about the jet stream. So here it is. By the time we get into Monday, close of business, big arcing of the jet across the west, high pressure forcing it to the north, routing all the weather off the Pacific up into Alaska and also BC, and then down into the northeast, the Great Lakes in the northeast. Tuesday, Wednesday, there's Thursday, 12/5. Again, same thing going on. Now, here comes a little bit of a shift. Look at the kink hitting the Pacific Northwest. A little dip in the jet, 12/7, 12/8. And then look at it rolling through the interior. A little low pressure tries to develop in Colorado on 12/9. So that's the next best shot of snow. Let me talk a bit about the forecast, radar, and the satellite. So by the time we get into Monday morning, here it is. High and dry across the lower 48. All the action, all the activity is up into BC and Canada. I'm going to let this thing run until we get to the around 12/7, 12/8, 9 time period. So here we go. Now, by the time we get into 12/7, here comes a storm system. And look what it does. It finally breaks through the ridge of high pressure, drops a cold front down, brushes the Sierra, Idaho, Montana. It's moving pretty fast. So again, this is not going to be major, initially, and there it goes running through the Wasatch, the Tetons, and then into Colorado. Now, at this point, it might spin up into a stronger area of low pressure in Colorado and also New Mexico through 12.9 and 12.10, where some of the bigger totals could be. Here are my numbers. Okay, so all of 12.2 through 12.10. Now, keep in mind, 99% of what you see in the lower 48 falls on 12.8, 12.9, 12.10. So for most of the period, the first week, there's nothing going on in the lower 48. It's totally dry. Until we get to that period, 12.8, 9, and 10, then we start to pick up some light to moderate accumulations of snow, maybe even heavy in southern Colorado and northern New Mexico. Before that time frame, everything is routed up into BC and in Canada. So that's where you're going to find the best conditions early on. Now, in the Northeast, 12.2 through 12.10. So you've got lake effect into 12.2. Then it becomes storm snow, 12.4, 12.5, and 12.6 for parts of New York. Certainly Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, 4 to 12 inches at the major ski areas. A little less as you drop down into Massachusetts. Um, but again, 4 to 12, 12.4, 12.5, and 12.6 with the storm system rotating in, almost like a clipper system that comes racing in, then might develop into more of an area of low pressure. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this On the Snow Before You Go forecast. Appreciate you tuning in here. Take care and have a great day.